Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Charidy webinar on slogans and storytelling messaging that moves supporters to act. We're really excited to be here and learning with you today and digging into this very meaty, really important topic when it comes to both crowdfunding and any kind of fundraising. So we hope to have a good conversation and leave you with some tips and tricks that you can take back to your organization and start implementing right away. So we'll introduce ourselves real quickly. First of all, hi everyone. My name is Miriam Brousseau. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Charidy. And my background is both in the nonprofit world and working as a consultant with nonprofits, and now in the crowdfunding space with Charidy. And I love crafting stories that help people see themselves in a mission or a cause and really get activated. Jess, you want to say hello?
Yes. Hi, guys. My name's Jess, and I'm the Client Success Manager here at Charidy. And as my title suggests, my role here is the success of clients. But my background is really a deep dive into marketing and branding. So I'm super excited to be a part of this and to tell a little bit about myself and my experience there and to share how it's sort of, streamlined into my time here at Charidy.
And hi, I'm Ariella Shapiro. I'm the Creative Director at Charidy, and I've been here for 2.5 years helping organizations, land on a powerful story that will help them with all their fundraising and brand raising endeavors. And my background in storytelling really goes to fiction and literature. I love writing. I love a good story, and I just love bring all that creative magic to helping people who are trying to create a better world.
Amazing. Thank you both. And Ariella is our guest expert today. She's written campaign copy for, I imagine, hundreds of campaigns that have been wildly successful. So she's got lots of insight to share. So what we'll be talking about today is what is storytelling, and specifically storytelling in marketing and in crowdfunding, and specifically charity campaigns, which are a little bit different, have our own special touch to them. We'll look at a couple of examples of really powerful storytelling that have come out of charity campaigns in particular, and what messages we can draw from that, what lessons we can take away. Talk about some of those common threads, and then we'll go through an exercise to think about how you can start bringing some of these things back to your own organization and go forward there with some next steps. All right, so Jess, take us away.
Yeah, so we want to start with this slide because I think it's pretty powerful. Fundraising is getting people to commit their money. Storytelling is about getting people to commit, period. So here at Charidy, what we're trying to do is to truly help your community fall in love with your story. People give for so many reasons, right? They want to help a cause. They feel a connection to that. And the reason they give is because there's a story there and they feel that connection. And by really building out your story behind your cause and your organization, people are not only just committing financially as a donor, but they're committing as an advocate, as a believer, and truly as a representation of your cause. So we're going to show sort of the differences as we go through this presentation about storytelling in a regular sense in marketing and also in the crowdfunding experience.
So tell us a little bit. I mean, we all have a little bit of experience in this, but Jess, you want to say a little bit about what storytelling is in marketing specifically?
Sure. So in marketing, it looks a little different. So there isn't necessarily a focus on time. It's more about focusing on brand awareness. There's multiple tiers in marketing. So there can be different strategies for different avenues of marketing. You might have a completely different strategy for your social media and digital presence than you will sort of on the ground in your guerrilla marketing. And, it's a really defined and developed series. There's a storyline that has an arc, but it's not as in your face or aggressive as you'll see some of the crowdfunding marketing has. And the purpose is to truly acquire new customers and to retain the old customers. So there are different strategies that go into marketing in that capacity. So the story is really versatile and different per avenue.
Mm-hmm. Great. Ariella, anything to add to that?
Yes, so storytelling marketing also, and this I'll get into when we're talking about storytelling and crowdfunding, is that you have as Jess mentioned, you have this arc, you have a long time to tell this story. So you think about, this is how we're going to tell this story this year over the course of this year, and how you're going to bring it out in different outlets on, whether that's going to be on subway posters, on like, your Instagram. And so it's each part of the year, you're telling a different part of your story, and you have a longevity there, and it's also goes through the course of years. And so the next year builds on that story, and it's something you're always telling.
Yeah, I love the idea of thinking about your marketing as sort of that ongoing story, that grand narrative that you can keep opening little doors into, and inviting your people in to experience and be part of that. Let's look at this example from Casper, which is one of my favorites, at least from my time living in New York. Saw these everywhere in the subway, and it's such fun, interesting branding and marketing and storytelling. So Jess, do you want to say a little bit about this example?
Yeah, I love this example. It's exactly what we were mentioning in the previous slide. There's, it's really more of a branding marketing. And, there's no call to action. There's no, here's even a link to our website. It is 100% a branded marketing example. So it also tells a different story in each slide. The first one, we're marketing towards those sleepy parents. I see myself in that slide. The second one is the perfect mattress for locals. That's for New Yorkers right there, or those living in an apartment complex, maybe in Chicago or wherever. And each, and the third one is, someone that is, I don't know, can find some sort of connection to, being a little selfish in the bedroom. So I think that what this is really showing us is that marketing can really take different avenues and be marketed and strategized toward different people. But there's a story behind each and every one of these tiles. There may not be an aggressive call to action, but the story is there. It just looks a little bit different, though, when we're talking about how we're going to tell our story here at Charidy.
Right. I think the implication in each of these examples is it's the perfect mattress for you if you see yourself as this main character.
Yes.
So I think the three of us probably see ourselves most in that first example of but definitely there's an element of that of speaking to all of these sort of New York stereotypes around the pigeons and the rats. And the narcissist one, I think, is just having a little bit of fun and being a little cheeky. Which also captures attention as well. Ariella, anything to add about the Casper example?
No, not on this one.
Awesome. Cool. So let's move forward to storytelling and crowdfunding. So what's different about a crowdfunding campaign and the way that you craft the story there?
So with crowdfunding, it's interesting. You have to know all the rules of basic storytelling in order to break them effectively. And that's what we're doing in crowdfunding storytelling, because you are breaking the rules of, basic branding, marketing. You're frontlining your call to action. You're very clear. It is still about that emotion and that experience you want people to feel and live. But you really have to be specific as to what they are buying into and what you want them to do. And so that's why grounding your theme in a concrete call to action is really, really important. And so we have here is so you're direct, you're effective, it has to be dynamic, you have to get people inspired. And the reason for that is because you have a very short amount of time for this to work. It's either at Charidy, we're working with 24-hour campaigns, at most, I think our longest campaign has been like 3 days. And you have to, get them excited, get them to open that email, and have them know what to do. It's not that they're just getting, okay, oh, that's nice. You want them to give. And you want to be active in all of your channels. It's not like, okay, we'll do a nice subway, ad. It's like we're going to be active on Instagram. We're going to be active on WhatsApp. You're gonna bombard your people for that one day. And also, what's interesting about this campaign is it does fit into your lifecycle marketing. So it is part of your brand building experience, but it is not the brand building experience. So when you think of it that way, it's like, oh, how do I fit my campaign into my story, as opposed to the campaign is my story. So that's really important to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting and important distinction, because what I've seen with a lot of charity campaigns is that the campaign itself gives the organization some leverage. It's like a jumping off point. It's a pivot point. It's an opportunity to kind of break out of the norm and to do something really grand and exciting that re-energizes. And so it's got to fit into that bigger grand narrative, but also be distinct in its own way.
Right.
I think also what's unique about Charidy is we have had also a lot of, organizations have used a campaign to jumpstart their brand because they haven't really built a brand. They've kind of, they have, their website, they're a little bit active on they have a social media presence, but, they know why it's important to them, but maybe their donors or even the wider community don't really know that why. And so it's interesting that in this process, you will tap into your story and then how to tell it. And if you do your campaign effectively, you're going to build on that. So if this is your brand breakout experience, then you want to continue that engagement throughout the coming year. And how do we build that story so that it's just not a one-time thing and a one-time excitement, but it's you're keeping your community engaged. You're thinking about ways to tell that story in the months and years to come.
Yeah, love that. Great. So let's keep digging in and look at some examples of really interesting, effective, exciting storytelling that's come out of Charidy campaigns in particular, but there are lots of lessons and tips that can be drawn from these examples that can be applied to branding and marketing and storytelling at any point in your marketing for your own organization. So let's look a little bit at the example of Sinai Health. So Jess, you want to say a little bit about just what this campaign is, and then Ariella can share a little bit about what the campaign messaging looked like?
Sure. So this organization was a hospital, Sinai Health in Shaare, Zedek. Their goal was $1 million, and they're going live in, is it today or tomorrow? I forget what day it is.
4 days. 4 days.
4 days, okay. So they were, and I'll let Ariella speak to exactly what the actual campaign was about. But as you can see from their website, it looks like a hospital. Very serious, awesome. Point. They've got everything that they need. Their branding is there. We can recognize exactly what we're looking at here. But through their Charidy campaign, they recognized this really exciting opportunity to build something a little different and to get their community rallied in a different way. And I'll let Ariella take it from there.
Sure. So yeah, these are two hospitals that were partnering together, and their goal is to raise money for incubators, birthing beds, and baby warmers. And you can see, as Jesse mentioned, these are two typical hospital landing pages. Very no nonsense, very serious, straightforward. This is what we do. Very medical, institutional. And so using medical institutional for a campaign isn't so inspiring. So we were confronted with how are we going to tell this story about babies and baby beds and getting people excited. So with that in mind, we could go to the next slide. And so I really love this. So the organization really wanted to do something fun and cheeky. In a past campaign that one of the hospitals did, they did Get Into Bed With Us. And it was for the same type of campaign for baby beds. And this year, when they brought in Mount Sinai, they wanted to keep that theme alive. So we decided to do Party in Our Crib. And what's really interesting and fun about this is, one, the colors, very eye-catching, and the babies are all, these are cool babies, and it's just who would not want to come to a party or take part in this campaign? And it's interesting because it also subverts expectations, because when you think of a hospital campaign, you could think of it, like we said, it would be very serious, and this is clearly not. And if you think of a campaign for babies or cribs, you could think oh, that's adorable, and it's if you look at baby ad campaigns in the world, they all kind of capitalize on this precious moments, sweetness, oh, the baby's sleeping in the crib and having beautiful it's just adorable. And this took it, and it was no, we're going to go in a very bold, direction that is oh, this is a party. This is where the cool babies are hanging out. But what also the slogan is very direct, and it's about, we're talking about cribs. where we are, why are we partying? Who's partying? It's all about, it's 32 hospitals, 30,000 babies. That's like, and all of their materials that they created for this campaign, like you see, like they have the bring your own bottle, for on one of their social things. It was all in line with this message.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear what you want to add to that.
Yeah, I feel like this also really speaks to kind of the millennial parent audience that they're probably actually talking to, the kind of elder millennials who are starting to get married and have children and want to see themselves as cool parents. And so that's my cool baby, right? This speaks to a part of who I am and the story that I'm telling about myself, as well as what's the hospital's trying to do and the change they're trying to make for their patients. So yeah, I love that it sort of subverts all of those expectations of that precious moment side or of that sick baby side, God forbid, or whatever it is, and just makes it fun and energetic and in your face, which works really well for a very short campaign.
Yes. And I really liked the point, Ariel, you made earlier about breaking the rules in marketing for these sorts of things. And it does, right now, these are engaging and sort of in your face and aggressive, which isn't necessarily best practice when you're branding. And that's not the goal here. The goal is to engage and get people to take action. So recognizing the difference in the assets that you would maybe create as a branding asset versus this sort of experience and asset is really important to recognize. Yeah.
I heard a quote from, I think it was Seth Godin recently, who said something about how marketing is trust plus attention. Mm-hmm. And I think a hospital has spent a lot of time building up trust. Mm-hmm. And so when you're doing this kind of campaign, it's all about the attention. And I think a lot of us do actually the opposite. We spend a lot of time kind of trying to garner all of that attention and not enough time on the trust. But in this case, this was the right way to go. And so we'll see how their campaign goes.
Excited.
Mm-hmm. Right. Let's look at the Unmentionables, another example of a campaign that I believe is still on the horizon. Jess, you want to give us an introduction, overview of what this one's all about?
Absolutely. So this organization, their goal is 250,000, and the date they're going live is the 27th of this month. So this organization provides, the unmentionables, if you will, to refugees. They provide underwear, tampons, condoms to those that need it, and those are sort of the things we take for granted. That we're focusing on food, we're focusing on those required resources to provide for refugees. But here, they're offering and providing the things that we forget about and take for granted. So we wanted to create a campaign for them that really, again, was in your face and had people take action. But we really loved their branding that they had created themselves already. So take a look at this picture, obviously, on this page and this slide. And then the next slide, you'll see sort of what we've done, or what Ariella and team did. You still see the branding embodied, if you will, on these assets, but we've changed our focus and our strategy to be more in your face and aggressive with our marketing. I'll let Ariella speak to you a little bit more about what the process looked like.
Sure. So the process with this, like even with kind of getting to this story, they had a really strong brand, which I loved. And I loved their visual appeal. It was so powerful. And we just kind of wanted to play with that. So in this, it doesn't subvert the donors' expectations. There's no surprise here. It looks like the organization. So there's nothing coming out of left field. But it was important also for this client because unlike Shaare, Zedek, and Sinai, the Unmentionables is a relatively new organization. They were started just 2 years ago. They've had tremendous impact, if you will, within that very short period of time with refugees. They've literally changed thousands and thousands and thousands of lives. And so it was important to build that brand instead of step away from that brand and do something different, because they're still in the process of telling their story and getting out there. And this is who we are. And we want to be identified with this. So that's why we wanted to just enhance that a little bit more here. And even with the slogan, because I know so many organizations are kind of okay, well, how do we come up with the story? And and the slogan and call to action is it's sometimes hard to think of. And so with this, they really liked this idea of you know, Gandhi's like quote, like, be the change you want to see in the world. And so we came to this idea of embody impact, that everything you do is this impact, everything they're doing, from the classes they lead on, like, you know, sexual health and reproductive education for refugees, to, you know, they have a photography program for refugees, to like the items that they distribute to refugees. It's like, it's all about this impact that's for the body, through the body. And so I'm also, there's just a very exciting campaign to work on, and really looking forward to seeing how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I love this message of just like really understanding the role that the campaign plays in your organizational life cycle, and just being thoughtful about that, you know, 2 years into a relatively new organization that's still building its initial momentum is not really the time to break away from your core branding. And at the same time, doing this kind of very high energy, explosive campaign that gets you in front of a lot of people is a really great opportunity. So this feels like a nice marriage of that very strong, you know, brand that they established for themselves, and then taking it out to the rest of the world, and really putting some fuel on the fire, I guess, with a charity campaign. So that's really exciting. Let's take a look at one last example from Yula Girls. So give us the background on this one.
Yeah, so Yula Girls, excuse me, is an all-girls high school. They actually completed their campaign. Their original goal was $400,000, and they actually raised $636,432 back on October 18th. So, you know, this is an all-girls school. Their branding is adorable. I mean, on their homepage, it's all about girl power and, you know, what women and young ladies can accomplish and do. Even just going to their website, you see that, you feel that. They've really built out their story there. So we wanted to take that a step further. And I'll let Ariella talk to you guys about how she did that with this amazing slogan.
So what we did for them is they were raising money for, like so many schools, for their scholarship fund. Because, you know, this is an amazing school. It's in LA. It is not inexpensive for, you know, students to go to, and a significant amount of students are on scholarship. And so they really needed to make up for that deficit, you know, to ensure that all the students can continue. I think it was like over 60% of students were on scholarship there. So that they can continue getting, you know, the resources they need so that they could still be in the school. So we came up with this idea of strong her, or stronger students, stronger Yula Girls, stronger community. And the whole message behind this campaign is that by participating in it, you are making the stronger school a stronger, they call their scholarship fund a BTNU education fund. And what we really landed on was this idea that Yula Girls would not be as strong as it is if even one of their students was missing. So that is the driving force of the message that they pushed through on all of their emails, was that we need all the girls to be here, and you need to take part in that in order to ensure that this happens and we have a stronger school. And it also fit in really nicely because it is their school. When I was a teenager, Yula Girls is an amazing school. This was a very personal campaign for me. It is so much about female empowerment. With their alumni go out to be leaders in so many different fields within the community. And that's also that they were tapping into alumni in that way too.
Something that occurs to me about this campaign that I really love, and it comes down to that strong her slogan that they, you know, tagged on with these different strong her students, stronger, you know, all of this, is that it plays out that nice tension between individual students and the community. Like strong her feels like it's very much about that one girl that's going through the school and becoming that amazing woman that she wants to be, but also like really setting her in the context of that bigger community, which feels like it's very like it's intrinsic to the story that they're trying to tell. So I feel like this is such a great example of taking that core story and just amplifying it in a really exciting way, and honing in on something that's really special about the school for that campaign day.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. So let's talk a little bit about the common threads that we saw in some of these. I mean, something that I really respect about charity campaigns is this idea of being super solutions based, because you only have a really short period of time, 24, 36 hours or so, to tell that story, to capture attention, and to encourage people to take a particular action. It's very much focused on the impact, the outcome, the positive results. It's less about sort of building up the narrative about the problem or the deficit, and more about coming together around that solution. What other threads spoke to you from these examples?
Well, I mean, I think that they're incredibly empowering. And I love the fact that, they're all super action inspiring. They tell you exactly what we need you to do. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it inspires, because the story has been told through the imagery and the copy. The action is inspired. And I love the idea of the Unmentionables being really, truly brand defining. All of them are, but I love that they've sort of taken the foundation of that brand and expanded on it to really make it work in the crowdfunding charity experience.
Anything else you'd call out, Ariella?
Yeah. Like I said, it is really like everything. I love everything that you shared about the brand defining, and to really think of ways that through your campaign, whether that is, being surprising and how you can make that work for you, or if you need to build it and think of, what you need to actually build your brand. And I think these are all, like, when you look at these common threads, like, sit down and ask yourself, what are you looking for in your charity campaign? What are you looking for in your fundraising event? And like, what solutions do you need addressed? And how your community can fill that, what could raising this money do for you? And then how you could weave that into a story, which is going to bring us to making that story happen.
So how does Charidy get to the point where you the process that we go through that potentially others could do themselves?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tell
so
us more about this 3-step process.
Yeah. So when you partner with Charidy, you go through a deep dive experience with your campaign manager. And this is sort of the 3 Ds of that. It starts with data. Second part of that is the development, and then the delivery. So you'll work with your campaign manager, and together we're going to really gather all of the information that you can provide us to capture your true identity as an organization and institution at its core. By gathering all of this data, we can then develop this storyline, this theme and narrative. We can come up with your slogan. We can build out our marketing strategies. But it's all based on the story we're telling. And that development is a really exciting and fun group effort that we're both working together to achieve. And then, once we've built out that story and we have a plan, we deliver. We're going to build out that strategy and then, curate the developed content. And the reason is to truly captivate your audience so that on game day, you reach your goal and all is well, and all is good. So that's sort of the 3 Ds of how you find your story through Charidy.
These are like the 3 Ds of my life at Charidy.
So Ariella, if an organization were going to sit down, even if they're not partnering with Charidy, but they're interested in doing some kind of fundraising campaign or crowdfunding and wanted to go through those steps for themselves, what are some actions that they could take? What would you recommend for them to go through that process as an internal team?
So the first thing I would say is you gather your team together. It doesn't have to be your entire team, but like key people within your team. And I think it should definitely represent like diverse parts of your team. So it's not only, the board. If it's a school, get like a parent involved, get a teacher involved, because everyone will have a different perspective on what, I'm taking a school as an example, but what your school is, because they all have a different experience there. So once you identify those key people, sit down, do a little free write. I love free writes. And what that means is, just write like 500 words about your organization. This is like to help you come up with a story, come up with a slogan, and don't censor yourself. Write why you are there, why you love this organization so much that you continue to be there instead of like going off to some other school. And see what comes up for you. Don't worry about spelling or how well you're writing something. Like literally do a brain dump, free stream of consciousness. And after you're done, look at what came up, highlight words that stick out to you, compare and share with your team members, and see if there's any commonalities between that. And I guarantee that there's going to be a slogan and a story in there somewhere that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like my first, when all my meetings, that's like what I start with. We may not do a free write, but that will be more of like a free exchange of ideas in a conversation. And I'm just listening. And sometimes the best slogans I've had has been just a line somebody said, and they were just speaking from the heart. It wasn't this polished thing.
Yeah. And I love the idea of bringing together some voices in those initial stages of the campaign. First of all, because you do get that outside perspective, and you recognize that all of these people involved with your organization are there for a reason, that they have had impact, that they have something to contribute, and that they also, when they come in at that stage, like, they feel invested in the campaign early on. So it's also kind of an engagement tool to get your volunteers more deeply involved in your organization. And so everybody loves when you're asking them for their opinion and their expertise, right? We love to share what we know. And so I think there's so many levels of impact that come out from that. And it's also just that exercise of sharing your why and reflecting on the work that you do is such a great team building exercise, and really helps the organization itself kind of get back to its roots and what energizes it to make the impact that it does in the world. It's a really healthy thing to do all around. And then when you use that to develop that campaign messaging and you can put it into action, you can see the fruits of that in a really, practical, real world kind of way. Cool.
Miriam, you also have a fantastic 3 whys process. Could you share that as well?
I would be happy to. So one thing that when I'm working with organizations, I recommend that they do to help get at the core of their story, the real essence of who they are, is to think about all the stuff that we do. Because there's a lot of stuff. You got a lot of programs, you've got administrative work, you've got fundraising, you've got all kinds of internal things to pay attention to, and technology. We do a lot of things in order to run our organizations. And so if you think about those programs and then ask, well, why? Why do we run this program? Well, we run this program so that these young women are equipped with certain knowledge and skills. Well, why is it important that they are equipped with that knowledge and skills? Well, because that will then go out into the world and do X, Y, and Z things. And why is it important that they go out into the world and do these things? If you ask why 3 times, you're going to get to your impact. You're going to get to the essence of what you do. You're going to get to not just the stuff that you put out in the world, but you're going to get into what you make possible, which is really what your organization is about. The stuff that you do is in service of what you make possible. And when you get to that next level, that's where the storytelling is really, really powerful. That's where people can see themselves in your mission and feel like they're coming along with you on that ride. So thinking about a specific thing that you do, and then asking why, and then after every answer, asking why again, and doing that 3 times can really help you get to that core impact and that sort of what you make possible as opposed to just what you do, which makes for really powerful storytelling. Cool. Awesome. All right, team. So Jess, you got a pitch for us?
Yeah, so don't you want us to help you write your next chapter, guys? And hook up with amazing Ariel and Miriam and let us help you tell your story. If this is inspiring to you and your wheels are spinning, reach out to me and we can get you guys started on your campaign and building out your story.
Absolutely. Cool. And some combination of us will be here in December for another one of these sessions to learn with you and dive into more insights and learnings that come out of Charity's work, but are applicable to organizations on all kinds of levels. Next time we're going to talk about soliciting major gifts, which feels like kind of a weird thing for a crowdfunding organization to do, but actually this is a really core part of Charity's model and what makes our campaign so successful. At the very beginning of the campaign, when we're working with an organization, one of the questions that we ask is, who are your matchers going to be? These higher level donors, be they philanthropists or foundations or corporations or some combination, that come in and commit a larger amount of money that allows for that multiplication of giving, right? That allows for, when I come in with my measly $10 donation, it actually registers as 40 on the site because there are 3 other matchers who have signed up in order to help amplify all that giving. So a core part of making charity campaigns successful is lining up those matchers, which means soliciting major gifts. So we'll be talking about that next time. Hope you come join us. Jess or Ariella, any final words of wisdom?
Nope, this was awesome.
This was pretty much it.
That's all we got for you, folks.
All we got.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time. Please follow up, and we'll send out a link to take a time to speak with the lovely and talented Jess if you're ready to consider your next campaign, or if you have any questions for any of us about storytelling and messaging. We're happy to be in touch. But until next time, thanks for joining us, and have a great day, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.